Like that.
Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome to the Conversations with Hannibal and Jupiter. I'm Hannibal
And I'm Jupiter. I don't know.
from Jupiter.
I'm feeling very robotic today. I don't know why. I don't know.
Are you gonna spit out the word of the day from your stomach for us?
The word of my
You know, remember that was on that show in the 80s? We can't
yeah.
really mention the name of it because the
Yeah. Well, I can. I was told about a name the other day that was very ethnic in spelling, but a name that we are very clear about and we know it so well. And it is the woman's name, or it could be a they name or them name, but the name was Michelle. We can all say it
okay.
together. Michelle. How do we spell?
Michelle.
How do we spell Michelle?
So
M
I
I
spell it.
no
Mhm.
M I dash SHAEL. Michelle.
God, they doing too much.
Now we
They
know
doing
who is coming to the interview, don't we? We know exactly who's coming to the interview. Mm-hmm. Michelle. Mm-hmm.
So I have a godson named Michelle, and he's Hispanic. And so I, before he became my godson, I never met a male named Michelle. But after
Mm-hmm.
him becoming my godson, I met like six named Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, I didn't know men are actually named Michelle, but it's actually
It's a
becoming very
very
common.
popular French male name. Mm-hmm.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But
Cool.
you know these people in Alabama, not in France, correct?
Well, so interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Interesting you say that.
I
So
like interesting things that I say.
the town I live in,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually settled by the French. So
Oh, we far.
as you
Oh.
come into the town, it says, welcome to the marvelous city of the people. And it is a French settled town. And as you go around, a lot of the streets are French named streets. And we have a lot of olive stuff here because the French, for some reason, brought olive trees here.
We won't say for some reason. It was something they knew was hardy and they grew back home, so they brought it with them. You're like, for some strange reason, they thought to bring olives here.
Hold up with all these olive trees, so there are olive trees in certain
Mm-hmm.
little areas of the countryside here, um, and muscadines that grow very wild here. And Alabama is not really a place where grapes should grow,
Mm-hmm.
but we grow muscadines here, very,
Mm-hmm.
very popular. So, just a little bit about us down here in the South. And
Thank you.
back in the day, it was heavily Creole here, heavily Creole, heavily French
Mm-hmm.
speaking. Yep. So that's all. I don't know why I feel
Mm-hmm.
like my neck is turned on this camera tonight. Like somebody just came in and said, ah, like I can't get my neck right tonight. Okay.
Did you have to swing on somebody earlier today? Your body's still in that position? Is that what it
Let me
is?
tell you what happened in church
I'm about to
today.
say, did we lay hands on somebody in church today? I know you. That's why I'm
Let
asking.
me tell you what happened in church with me today. So this lady is up giving her testimony, right?
Uh,
Let me set the scene, Lord. Let me set the scene. I am 4 rows from the front of the church. The third row, which is the row in front of me, my brother is sitting on. The row in front of him is this lady and her 2 daughters. The row in front of that is my cousin's 3 children. Now, my cousin Evelyn is playing the drums in this church. and her husband is playing the keyboard. We're at their church, their pastors.
Mm-hmm.
Baby. So this lady is up giving her testimony. Y'all know how terrified I am of snakes. I'm
Yes.
sitting there and I moved, and a napkin fell off the seat next to me that I had there and rolled on the floor. I thought it was a snake.
And your reaction
Jupiter,
was? Your
Jupiter,
reaction
I'm
was?
sitting there. But mind you, it's quiet because this woman is testifying up there. I said, "Woo! Woo! Woo!" Jupiter, everybody in church looked at me and I was like, "Woo!" Because at this point, I realized it's a napkin and I just go through it now. I can't say, "Oh, excuse me." Woo! Woo!
So her testimony hit you. It hit you. You felt it.
So my brother, who is sitting in front of me, knows why I'm laughing now. And he is now balled over laughing too, because he's goofier than I am. And now Evelyn is on the drums laughing. She don't know what's going on, but she knows it's something good because that's just me. So she's up there laughing, and Mother is still testifying away up there. She thinks she got me to catch the Holy Spirit in her testimony. And no, honey, I'm about to tear this whole church up in here because a napkin fell off. So that's what happened, Jupiter. That was me in church today.
Well, I am glad you did not have your gun with you because I know how you are.
Amen. I probably shot the place up. That's all.
Speaking of church,
Mm-hmm.
And children in church,
Mm-hmm.
are there any of your members in your church that have children who are LGBTQ, meaning adults?
In my church, no, but
Mm-hmm.
we are very welcoming.
Okay.
Now we got one or two old people.
We won't say their names.
That the Lord is working on. But one something I can say about my church is the members and the pastor and first lady lead with love.
Mm-hmm.
That's one something that we do. We lead with love, and it's very unique here in the South because what you find a lot of is you find a lot of Baptist and religious people here leading with a lot of hate, a lot of accusations. You find them leading with a lot of, "Oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that." But my ministerial team leads with love, which is really good because love conquers so much. Love conquers so much. So I would say that if a youth were to come out, they would be sheltered with love.
It would be a safe
Across our
space.
ministerial team, it would be a safe space. It is a safe space for them because they would be sheltered with love. And one of the things is a lot of churches around here be like, God loves the sinner, but hates the sin, and blah, 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 blah. And so, I'm not saying that anyone is upholding or condoning or whatever. What they're saying is live your authentic truth. At least what I am saying is live your authentic truth. We offer Christ to everyone. And we want you to be who you are, but know that when you come here, you're going to be loved. Because
I
that's
always
all we
think
can
about,
do.
yeah, because I think about, the youths of today and their coming out process and, thinking what are those safe spaces for them? Are churches safe for them? Are schools safe for them? Is their family members safe for them? Like, what are those safe spaces for them to have that process,
And
you know.
I've heard of, like, right here in my community, some of the larger churches here that have really shunned some gay youth that have come out there. And in my mind, I am thinking, like, how do your parents still sit in this ministry? How do your parents still sit in this ministry? Are you all sitting there because you like the hype of a brand new church? Are you sitting there because you like the ideal of a fancy new building, or that there are a lot of people there? There's no way that I'm going to sit in a ministry and I am not accepted, or my child is not accepted being who they are. My child is going to be openly who they are, irregardless of how anyone feels. But I have heard the horror stories, and is one of the places I will not go here. And people ask me all the time, well, why don't you go up to that church and worship with them? I don't want to go worship with them. You've done one person wrong, that I know of personally. I've heard the horror story. You won't get that opportunity to have that moment with me because, honey, I swings back. You
Yeah.
know, so, and I know a couple of LGBTQ people that flock to this particular church. They run up there and they be like, "Oh, the word is so good, and the word is this, the word is that." And I'm like, "Yes, the word is so good." But then when he starts beating you up,
Hmm.
you sit there and you look silly. And then you take your wallet out and you place money into this collection plate, right? And now you're fueling this type of hate. You're not promoting a safe space for those who come behind you. You have to lay the pathwork for those who come behind you. I remember in the early 2000s, when I was doing a lot of prevention work and community work, we were laying the groundwork so that these children today can be as open as they are. They will never understand some of the things that we went through so that their little bodies can
Right.
hold hands publicly now, so that they can have gay bars on every corner, so that they can have rights to marry, so that they can have, the right to be who they are in schools, no matter where your school is located in the country, so that you can have laws on the book that protect you. They would never understand what those struggles were, but I remember, and
But I think
that's
it's
why I
also,
refuse to sit in it. Mhm.
and I think it's also a thing too where I think as a gay youth, I even knew myself, uh, you kind of teeter on going in and out of the closet
Mhm.
where you feel safe. And,
Right,
and and that's
right.
how I felt like I did. I teetered going in and out of the closet until I went to college. So I knew who I was, my family knew who I was, that kind of thing. But still, in this area, you butched it up, you changed your way, and you went back in. I think with this thing you're saying about churches, maybe those people who are going to church and they are of the LGBTQ community, they may be doing that same thing of teetering in and out. So
Mhm.
I'm like this at home, but I go to this church. My family went to this church. We're a legacy family. We give all the
Exactly.
most tithes in the world and all of this stuff. Um, but I think sometimes we sometimes learn how to do that. One, out of safety, and two, sometimes tell ourselves like it makes more sense. Like where do you have to be yourself? And
Mhm.
I know everybody keeps telling everyone you can be who you are wherever you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. But I think that those people who are saying that, they may live somewhere where there's a privilege to do that.
Mhm.
Like when you talk about the privilege of walking around Piedmont Park with a man holding hands, that's a privilege. It's not a
Yes.
right. It's a privilege that you have in Atlanta. You do not have that privilege in Jackson. You don't have that
You
privilege in
don't have it.
small towns in Alabama. You don't even have that privilege in small towns in Louisiana. Like you just don't have that. And so I think sometimes people don't realize it's easy to stand on that soapbox and say, "Oh, I'm just who I am wherever, and if people don't like it, who cares?" Yeah, you have that privilege to do that. That everybody does not have that.
Right.
Mm-mm.
And then you have to look also when you're talking about LGBTQ youth coming out, um, you have to wonder, are rural schools really prepared for this? Are they prepared for it? Yes, there are laws on the books that are going to protect these youth in the schools. But let's have the real conversation. And on the rule level, is the principal going to uphold this rule?
Mm-hmm.
Are the teachers going to uphold this rule? If little Johnny's being called the F word or the S word in class, is the teacher really going to hold the student that's doing it accountable? Are they really going to write this up as hate language? You know, are they really going to ensure that the proper protocols are followed? Because now little Johnny is being terrorized in school, and he could very much have PTSD from the consistent trauma that he's facing on a daily basis as he goes through school, because he has teachers who turn their head to it and say, "Oh, he's just an S, you know, he's just an S, he'll get over it, he'll grow out of it or whatever," when your job is to educate these students and to protect them while they're in your care, you know?
But I can say one thing that, and not against what you're saying,
Mhm.
but I can say the sad part is, do we carry the torch over? And I don't think that we really do a good job of carrying the torch over. Now that I've come out, I have a different type of bully. I suffer a
Mhm.
different type of trauma once
Mhm.
I've come out and now I'm become inundated in the gay community. Now there are things that are being said to me that, as much, like, it's bad if a straight person says it because that's wrong. But then I go to my community and I am ostracized because of my sexual preference. I'm ostracized because I'm too masculine. I'm ostracized because I'm too feminine. Uh, there's just so many other things. So I think the sad part is, as a gay youth, it's not like you walk into this wonderland of, okay, now I'm around the gays and everything is great. That's not it either. I think that when we're talking about being in school, a lot of times when things happen, especially with boys, it's like, well, boys will be boys. They're all joking. You got to let that, slide off for you. Don't be that kind of kid. Like, we keep telling kids that, this trauma is okay. This
Mhm.
behavior is okay. Let it go. But somehow I think once we get into the gay community, we don't realize the trauma we put on ourselves. And what does that
Absolutely.
say to them? So it's like, as a young teenager coming out, okay, so with the straight people, they're teasing you, but somehow when you get in the community, you may fall prey to predatory behavior, and then you become sexualized. And so how do you fix those two places where we act like one is really bad, but we don't talk about the other one?
So we have to realize in the LGBTQ community, first off, we have to identify the behavior and announce the behavior and stop it. There are so many people who laugh and joke about, oh, no fats and femmes like that, oh, I don't date skinny people. Oh, I don't date this type of person. I don't date this person. If they got this, I don't want them. Da 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 da. Da. We have to we have to fix the language that we use in the LGBTQ community. We have to fix the language that we're passing on to the next generation. One of those things that we have to fix is our self esteem first. You know, I think we do that with the youth coming in by giving them mentors. I often talk about how when I first came out in Alaska, I had mentors. I had guys like Hugh Brown, who I still talk with today. Believe it or not, today, even Hugh sends me stuff, trying to say, hey, Maurice, look into doing this. Hey, Maurice, look into doing that. That mentorship relationship never ended, from the time I was 18 and I'm over 40 now. You know, Hugh still looks out for Maurice to make Maurice a much better man today than he was when I was 18. You know, and
Hmm.
I think that's a piece that we're missing also in the LGBTQIA plus community is we're not mentoring. So many times people are meeting these young people and they're automatically trying to sleep with them or they're automatically trying to take advantage of them for whatever reason, but we're not teaching. You know, we're not teaching these young people, hey, you know, this is what predatory behavior looks like. Hey, you know, this is how you handle your finances so that you're financially stable. So, yes, your mom kicked you out. Fine. So, this is where you need to go get a job. And this is what you need to do to, you know, get yourself on a balance. You know, I remember always having a two-bedroom apartment when I was in apartments, and when I got home I always had a home with extra rooms in it, because you never know when there's someone in the community that has fallen on hard times. And so many times people will not allow our people in their homes, you know, so we have got to have space to take care of
Hmm.
our people, you know. And so I just feel that we've got to build our network back. We've got to start mentoring, and we've got to start addressing this hate language, this self hate language that we have in our community. We can no longer put each other down. We've got to start building each other up. You know, the organization that we're doing here in West Alabama, Ujima, West Alabama, that's the goal, is to build the community up, to give them a sense of community, to give them the mentorship, to build programs that the youth in this area can feel positive about, that they can understand and enjoy that it's okay to be gay. It's okay to be gay and love the same gender. You know, let's normalize being who you are. And everybody around in this area is pretty much Christian, except for like 6 people that I know here. but but you know, it's one of those things where a lot of people here have never seen an affirming church, so they don't have the ideal of it. So their ideal is, and I hate to go down a religion on this, but their ideal is
But you will.
that, right, because that's who I am. But their ideal of religion is, I'm living in sin because I'm like this and I'm gonna go to hell. So if I'm gonna go to hell, I might as well do what I want to do anyway. You know, I can't be in God because I'm going to hell because I'm living in sin, because that's what they've always been taught. But they've never been in an affirming church before. So they don't realize that, hey there, you you can live and go to heaven. You know, let God do the separating. That's what the Bible says. Let God do the separating. You
I
can
think it's
still have
another
a
thing that when we are talking about giving, LGBTU safe spaces and mentors, that uh, we may want to also open our scope of that as well. Meaning, uh, not every gay youth that comes out is saying, I am willing to walk down the block with a pink, a rainbow flag on my back.
absolutely,
And so
absolutely.
if I am a young man or a young woman and I am into sports or I'm into poetry or something else that may not fit into what other people may think is the gay agenda in a sense, and they may not want to watch a drag show, then they need to be able to have spaces and things for them to do as well, so they don't feel as if like, well, yeah, I came out, but these are not some of the things that I like doing. Not against it, just something I don't want to do.
You remember when we were coming out or coming up, we had the DL Crown and Cools. We had, all those, like we
Mhm.
had those shows and books and things, and they talked about it. I forget the one, I think it was B-Boy Blues or something like
Mhm.
that were out. And I remember I asked the librarian, Miss Goree, we called her Miss Gayry. I asked her, I said, well, could we order the B-Boy Blues, please? And she said, what is that? I said, And that's the exact face she made. What is that? I said, it is
So
a group of
welcoming.
novels. I was like, it's a group of novels. And I was like, I really want to read them, Ms. Gary, because I had saw them on the book truck. So in the rural areas, we didn't have a lot of books in our libraries. Remember, schools were still kind of segregated here. We didn't have a library that had an array of books in it, right?
Mm.
I doubt if there was 250 books in my high school library. Right. So we would get these book fairs that came down, and they went all over the country with these like big bins. 18 would pull up with these big bins that had all these books in it that was all around the country. And so this was in there, but I could not afford to buy them. But the school had money set aside to buy books, and I knew this. And I knew Miss Gay Reed was going to buy the books that she wanted. So, Miss Gary, I'm in here all the time working on your little dial-up internet. I'm in here helping you all the time. I need to get my books. And Miss Gary, I think about it. So I leave, and like I think the book fair may have been there for 5 days. So like day 4, she called me.
Just as friendly as ever, huh?
That book is inappropriate, and it will not be in this library. And I am going to tell your mother what you tried to get me to buy with school money. I said, okay. Miss Teacher is going to have something for you when you get home. I said, okay. My mother would just be happy that I'm reading. So, you can call and tell her what I was trying to read, but she's going to just be happy that Maurice picking up a book to read, honey. But anyway, that's the experience that I had, trying to get access to those books. Little did I know that we used to go to the library like once or twice a month in the town that I lived in, and they actually had a lot of books. Mm-hmm. It was like a real city library, and the librarian there was my mother's friend, but she was also a stud. So when I asked her for the book, she knew exactly where I was going. She said, "Oh, come on, let me take you to it." Like the Wicked Witch of the North. Woo! So anyway, she took me to it, and I was able to read the book. And so I didn't check it out because I didn't want to bring it home. But I was able to read the book when we went to the library on the weekends. And then sometimes during the evening when we got out of school, we could go to the library. And I could drive to the library. So I was able to read the books. And I think those books will be so helpful to the youth now, because it gave us a vision of what it was like to be in somewhere else, and experience life in somewhere else.
I wonder if those are like ebooks now or something like that.
I wonder, but I'm a real book person. I know
what you said, but we talk about the youth today, the youths. And the youths
well,
today.
They probably want an app. They want
an app. They want to Amazon it and all that other stuff. So they may want to Kindle it and read on the tablets. And they may want to do that. And it may be an option. But that's just what I think about now is just like, making it more of a community center. I think if that was kind of the case where, you have community centers where everyone, like maybe if there was one that was more inclusive for LGBT youth, to just have that kind of thing where they can go out and play sports, they can be inside and do things, they can learn about photography, they can paint, they can, make clothes, whatever the case may be. But I still think it has to be a point where we're coming in with, honest intentions with them when they are suffering in their schools, when they're suffering in their homes, when they're suffering in church, when they're suffering on their football teams, when they're suffering on those track teams, that they come to people that are going to uplift them, not just sexualize them and say, this is what you should do. Now, yes, we understand that as teenagers, you have a lot of hormones. And I think that it's different if teenagers are being sexually active. I am not saying teenagers should be, but I'm saying these things do happen. But when teenagers are being sexually active with adults, that is a totally different thing.
Yep. It's called rape.
Right. It's predatory behavior. It is not cool. And I think that's why sometimes I don't do well when I hear men say things like, oh, them boys is cute. I know they may be talking about adults, but it still makes me feel
Right.
uncomfortable because it's
And
like, just say those
it
guys.
bothers me. It bothers me too. Like I know you have a son who's a
Mm-hmm.
teenager, and I have worked in juvenile. And so
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like I need to call the cops on y'all.
Right.
I feel like there's a number for this. What is that number? Because to me it's like don't ever look at a child in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
I could never imagine looking at a child in that manner. But there are predators out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be careful. And I would tell parents, be extremely careful with people who are working with your children, your youth.
Mm-hmm.
Just be careful with them. Make sure that their intentions are good, and don't be afraid to run a background check. Don't
Right.
be afraid to ask for a background check on someone who is working with your youth. Yeah. But I do also think like the programs that you're talking about are awesome. Back in 2001, I believe it was, we started the Anchorage, or was it Anchorage? Just Alaska. I think it was Anchorage um, Community Center, LGBT Community Center. And we used to volunteer there. Someone donated us a room in a building. And when I promise you, this room was like no bigger than maybe the width of a hallway in a hospital and
Mm-hmm.
maybe the length of maybe 12 to 14 feet long. But we made that thing like home. Everybody in the community, everybody you can think of that was LGBTQ, we donated magazines that we had. We donated novels that we had. There was some people who donated a couch, a desk, just different things to make it feel real homey there.
Mm-hmm.
And, we put the number out there in different places so that if someone wanted to call and just chat or ask questions or whatever, they could. And then there was those of us who volunteered there, and we volunteered in shifts, to sit the shifts out and just be there, be an open voice there for people when they came. And we did like snacks and stuff like that, and it just made it comfortable. And there were days when no one would walk in, but then there were days when like 10, 15 people would stroll in there and be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, how much are the books? Well, they're free. Take it. Bring it back if you want. Don't, you know. But I get what you're saying, we even Alaska was very gay friendly all the way back then. I remember us playing volleyball. We had a kickball league. I remember having a huge picnic thrown by the city in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of summer, a huge one thrown by the city in the end of summer. Like everyone just celebrated the pride parades and things like that. And that's something I really want to work on here in my area. This area that I live in is called the Black Belt. I really want to work on a pride parade.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know it ain't gonna be something that we can do in the next 2 years, but I really want to have a pride parade here.
I remember that pride parade you said you went to, and the people were still driving on the other side of the street.
Child, they gave us one lane. Do you hear me? One lane on a 4-lane highway. So we over here in the right lane against the shoulder. Hey, zoom, hey, zoom. Child, y'all don't get on that yellow line. Don't get on them.
And it's a lot of things too when you were talking about that. Like we, should support more. Like there are a lot of LGBT athletic leagues out there It's not just bowling, it's not just a kickball. There's so many different things. There's basketball. There's all those things that are going on that we should go out and support those small leagues that are doing those type of things to help bring awareness that these are the things that are going on and you can do. Sometimes as adults you could be on a professional team and it doesn't work out very well. And so what happens? You go back in the closet again. And then you gotta wait till you become really successful and then you retire, then you get to come back out of the closet again. And that is a lot of trauma on you. That constant trying to be something else or to show a different way of yourself, and nobody is like, is this person, is he like, we shouldn't have to get married to the opposite sex so that we can prove to people that we're straight. Like, that's just no. And we don't need to have roommates that we make sleep in the other bedroom when your mama come over. Like, those are things we should not have to do anymore.
Oh, Kevin and Derek been roommates for 40 years. 40 years. And they never done found a lady yet. Child, the Lord gonna send them somebody today. I think he already sent them who they Hey, Polly, they already there. Hey, Polly.
That's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, I want everybody to remember that we publish this content weekly. So please hit the subscribe button. Also hit that bell to be notified about future videos and content. I want to thank you, Hannibal, today. I know you have been going through some things, and you keep a smile on your face, and you always seem to be in good spirits. I was going to say another word, but I realized that might be offensive, so I won't say it.
You know how you like to start your offensive statements.
No, for real, no disrespect, but I was going to say a word, but I realized that word has a certain connotation that may be taken the wrong way. So
what's
even
the
with
word?
no disrespect,
we might as well come on with it now because you done started it. Come on.
Okay, I was gonna say you could always come across, happy and jolly, and I realized somewhere. See,
now you're calling me fat again.
This is why I didn't want to say it, because I knew that's not
so
what
now
I was going to say.
Santa Claus because I'm in a red shirt and got a beard. So what is this, Black Christmas?
This is why I didn't want to say it, because I said you're going to take it the wrong way. Even though I said no disrespect, even though I said I didn't want to say it and I changed the word, you still took it the wrong way. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, because I don't want this hand to come through there and slap me in the face. So, right. But either way, you're my friend and I love you. Anyway, this has been a good show, and we will see you guys next time.
See y'all. Thank you, studio audience.